Hey, so this is an unscripted video. I didn't originally want to do this video. I wanted to do my video on the petrodollar or US led system first, and then start speaking about some of the predictions I have and draw them back to some of the things that I discuss. But I think that some of these things that I'm going to be mentioning are going to happen sooner than I initially thought they would. So I want to get this video out there with my predictions before things happen, just so that I can point back to this video and say, ha, told you so. But sorry for it not being scripted, but yeah, let's go. High level predictions for how things generally are going to go. I think that the US currency is going to be debased. They're either going to have hyperinflation or very high levels of inflation for a prolonged period of time. They're essentially going to have to, at this point, inflate their debt away. They're also going to, in the process, weaken the dollar, and this will be the final nail in the coffin, which is going to kill the USD global system, or the US dollar as the reserve currency. A few things are going to lead to this having to be the case. One of them will be the US is actually going to be a net energy importer. Right now, I think they are either the first or the second biggest energy exporter. But within the next 2 to 3 years, they're going to become an energy importer, which is going to trigger a lot of events. Yeah, I'll speak in a separate video about how I know that is the case. Other than that, I think the US isn't going to be the only one having economic problems. Obviously, as they devalue their currencies, is going to basically render a lot of other nations' savings useless. But in addition to that, the UK and Euro are going to have similar issues where they're going to have to inflate their debt away. They're going to lose currency. They're going to have to move away from being quote unquote consumer economies to being actual economies, which is going to do all sorts of stuff to their economies in the process. They'll have to cut a lot of their social programs in the UK and Europe. On the positive note, for some countries, North Korea and Afghanistan, I think they're going to see quite a level of prosperity. My entire life, they've been, like bottom of the rung nations in terms of economic development. I think that will be changing in the next decade or two. US is going to, as I mentioned, have to weaken the currency. They're going to lose some of their remaining monopolies. They're going to lose the energy export, and when it gets to a certain point, China's going to untie their currency, the renminbi, from the dollar. They're just and in that, the renminbi is going to get a lot more stronger in comparison to the dollar, and this will in turn push it in terms of GDP over the US, and it will actually be the biggest economy in the world, even bigger than the US in terms of GDP. Increase in inequality in the West, that's going to increase dramatically. And as a result of all of the things above mentioned, gold and physical assets will be up. I think gold has a few reasons why it's going to keep rallying. One is because it's going to be used increasingly so as a reserve currency, plus because of the debasement of currencies, plus we're going to be reaching peak gold. I don't think as soon as people expect, because mining is developing, but we will be hitting peak gold pretty soon. So gold is, if there's one thing I'm going to say, it's invest in gold. Some of the smaller things that we can expect: the US is going to have to invade either Iran and or Venezuela. That's going to have to happen in the next year or two, and that's going to be all about the energy issue. If they don't, well, they will. They'll start a war with one of those two. I don't think it will succeed. It might succeed, but if it doesn't succeed at that point, that will be the last thing which will confirm to them that they have to cozy up to Russia. I expect there will be a pipeline built between Russia and the US, which people thinking about it now will probably say I'm crazy because they're like arch enemies, but they will have to mend ties with Russia, and Russia will be the main energy supplier for the US. I think there's a very high chance for multiple conflicts in mainland Europe, especially after Ukraine falls. I think that's going to pretty much disintegrate NATO, and I think that as a result, there's going to be a conflict in mainland Europe, probably between Poland and another nation, or Hungary and another nation, and of course the Balkans are on the menu as well. So I think that there are going to be a lot of tensions. There could even be another war between Germany and countries like France as the EU disintegrates. Don't know, watch and see. But we're not going to have peace in Central Europe, in mainland Europe, should I say. What else? UK will most likely lose the NHS, as I mentioned. They're already going to have to cut back on social programs. NHS, I imagine, will be privatised, and essentially, if you want to know what the UK is going to look like, it's essentially going to look like what Argentina looks like, and it's going to slowly look more and more like Argentina, and then it's actually going to, in my mind, it's actually going to go beyond that and start to look like something in between Argentina and India. Ukraine loses to Russia. Russia takes Odessa, most of the land east of river Dnipro, then collapses Ukraine into a failed state, probably. I think that's going to happen very soon, very, very soon. I also wrote down, if China doesn't invade Taiwan before the end of the Russia/Iran war, like, the NATO-Russia or NATO-Iran war, if Taiwan hasn't used that time or that distraction to invade Taiwan, then I think that they will decide to reunify with Taiwan peacefully. China will win the AI race. I know the US is leading quite comfortably at the moment, but I have no doubt in my mind that China will win that. The main reason is going to come down to China's energy dominance. And I put down as my last point, NATO will turn on their own member. I have a few candidates in mind, but I honestly think that NATO will start, something will happen and NATO will turn on one of their own members. I think the obvious candidates for that are probably, like Hungary or Turkey. Could go like 300 IQ and say that something hot actually happens between the US and Europe. And people listening to this are probably thinking you're crazy. It's actually a very real possibility, especially if we look at history, look at the Peloponnesian Wars. Let's see. That was my predictions. Unscripted. Let's see how many come true.